Tonight, we dive headfirst into redraft season. Welcome to Mocking with the Stars. Oh, yes, baby. Welcome to Mocking with the Stars here on Club Fantasy FFL. We are back after taking a week off. The Canadian had to have last Monday off because it was an American holiday. Go figure. No, my guy is here, Chris Battistow at FF Chris B over there on Twitter. And, of course, you can hit me up at FantasyJ77. Chris, we got stars tonight. Two of them. First, the man covered Travis Etienne and Keon Coleman from their high school days. A passionate youth sports writer, one of the sharpest minds in the game, a teacher by day, a Rico Dowell stand by night. Mr. Rhett Manuel, over there on Twitter. How are we doing, sir?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. You know, I was expecting a lot of things in my life. To be called a Rico Dowell stand is a first, perhaps a last, but you know what? Tonight, after one tweet, I will wear that badge with honor. Let's have some fun tonight, fellas.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Second of all, a baseball coach in the minors of minor leagues, a frequent flyer, a hotel connoisseur, champion bus driver, one of the few Jelani truthers left. He left a baseball game just so he could hang out here with us. Now, I'm telling you, he left a baseball game. He left his 5-year-old son's baseball game so he could be here with us tonight. Mr. Drew Scott at Drew3MR over there on Twitter. How we doing, sir?
Hey, first of all, my son is 8 years old, and I help coach his team, so I couldn't leave that one. And my daughter's game got rained out, so that's not my fault. All right, I can't help it that my night got freed up. That's not on me. I'm doing great though, man. As much as I would have loved to have been at the game, it's nice being here with you guys.
So the 8-year-old's team lost or win
No,
is
we won.
our loss. But you're not there. You're with us, so it's our loss. Now, welcome to the club, gentlemen. This is how we do it over here at the club. The draft tonight is a 1 QB redraft. I went ahead and put in a little tight end premium for us. I know Chris loves those. I'm going to go ahead and get the draft started as we bring this up here on the screen. And had a few newsworthy, I guess, would be the right way to say it. Newsworthy things over the last week or so. Chris and I, we didn't get to talk last week, so I'll bring a couple of those up. But let's first start off. Moment of silence for Mr. Larry Allen, who passed away at the age of 52. One of the greatest interior linemen to play this great game. Hall of Fame inductee in 2013. And this might be the most surprising thing is he was a member of the Cowboys on their last Super Bowl championship in 1995. Woof.
Wow.
20 years of not being America's team.
It's a few years, man. That's a little while back.
It's a long time.
A couple things happened over last week. Chris and I didn't get to touch on. Number one is Nico Collins, 3 years, $72.75 million. Chris, I want to get your answer on this, but let me ask Drew first. What does this mean for that wide receiver room there in Houston? Does this automatically make Nico the one?
I mean, I think it should give us at least some insight into how the team has felt about Nico while his contract status was up in the air. You know, clearly they valued him. I was waiting to see, you know, between Diggs and Nico, it seemed like one of them wasn't going to stick. And so it seems like Diggs is clearly a 1-year rental now at this point. And so I think Nico should have already been right there as a 1A, 1B with Tank Dell, probably having a slight edge because he's not coming off the injury. So I don't, it shouldn't have really changed too much, but it just kind of should give us a little bit more confidence, I guess, to be, you know, to be high on Nico.
Yeah, Chris, what is your take right away on Nico, 3 years, $72.75 million?
First off, let me just say the Canadian holiday. I showed up to work, fellas. American holiday day off. Like, I don't know what's going on here with this. Americans don't work on the holiday stuff. Victoria Day up here in Canada, I showed up. So let's just make that clear.
How many snow days did you get just last week?
Hey, we don't count snow days. But as for Nico, I think dynasty-wise, it makes him the wide receiver one. For me, that's the guy that I would want to take out of that situation, considering the term and the amount of money that they gave Nico. Redraft-wise, at the value, I'm probably going to fade Nico and Stephon Diggs. There's just other guys that I would rather have where they're going, and I'm going to scoop up the value on Tank Dell. Rhett, I don't know where you sit with that room, but outside the wide receivers, are you targeting, especially in tight end premium leagues, are you going after Schultz at all?
Man, I've said this a little while since they acquired Stephon Diggs and since they acquired Joe Mixon as well. Dalton Schultz is probably, in the best case scenario, the fifth option in that offense. And then that's not counting weeks where you have Noah Brown might come up and get a spike week. Joe Mixon's going to have big weeks. You have Tank, Nico, and Stephon Diggs all ahead of him. The only scenario where I can see the Dalton Schultz thing happening as I make that pick right there is very simply this. If we have that annual Stephon Diggs fade that we've had lately, then you might see Dalton Schultz emerge later on the season.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you guys. I think the Nico Collins is exactly what Drew said there. That's basically what the team feels about him, and that it's not Diggs. Diggs is there for the 1 year. I think the way they structured that contract with basically doing away with the contract except for 1 year is the answer, the end all be all, right? The other big news we had come out last week was Jalen Waddle also got a contract extension, 3 years, 84.75 million. Now, I'm not saying he's not worth it because I think they're all worth all that kind of money, but he is number two. He is a number two, period, the end on his team with Tyreek Hill still there. Rhett, Jalen Waddle, basically 85 million. Talk to me.
Jalen Waddle, $85 million. Keep this in mind. Tyreek Hill is not playing forever.
What?
I think
CTESPN just said today that he's going to re-sign a 4-year. So take it for what it's worth out of CTESPN's fingers from their Twitter account. But hey, they've been hitting on some good news, man.
They have hit
they also knew that Diggs was going to Houston before Houston knew that Diggs was going to Houston.
Yeah, same with Beckham to the Finns.
So yeah, it's an interesting proposition with Jalen Waddle. I will say this: 3 years, $84 million. I mean, we know what Miami's about. They like to get it deep. They like to use that speed. Jalen Waddle, 3,000-yard seasons in 3 years in the league. So, a guy who people look at the money initially and say, wow, that's a lot of money. But this cap is going to keep climbing and climbing and climbing. So by next year, this deal might end up even being a value. So I see where Miami was and giving him that money right now and not letting him hit the market.
Well, Drew, I think so. You had you had the Eagles do what they did with both Vontae Smith. You had, again, Houston doing their deal with Nico Collins. You had the deal with Jalen Waddle. And then the deal we were all expecting finally happened today. Justin Jefferson, 4 years, $140 million, resets the wide receiver landscape to I think it's 34 million, something like that. Very, very, very big deal. Talk to me about Justin Jefferson and his deal.
Well deserved. He might still be underpaid. I don't know, but he's at least closer to what he should be paid now. The dude's a baller, man. I have zero concerns with Justin Jefferson, the player. Just speaking from a fantasy standpoint, I am a little bit nervous, more nervous than I have been in years past. I considered taking him after Rhett sniped me on Bijan, who I was hoping to get there. I was fumbling. I was fumbling back and forth between Amon-Ra and Justin Jefferson. But the quarterback situation does worry me a little bit. I mean, Kirk Cousins, for all the flack he's gotten, has been a very good quarterback for his pass catchers in terms of as far as fantasy goes. And I don't know if I have as much faith in Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy and guys like Drake London and Garrett Wilson. They've shown us that talent can only get you so far as fantasy goes if the quarterback situation is bad enough. And so it really just comes down to, how much of a downgrade does the combination of Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy end up being compared to what Kirk Cousins has given us. And it's at least enough of a concern for me to take Amon-Ra over him, who I've already seen him, for several years with Goff now. And we know what he is, and so there's even some room there for some possible touchdown positive regression. If Sam Laporta does come back down to earth a little bit, maybe Amon-Ra catches a couple more touchdowns. So it was a tough decision there because I do love Justin Jefferson, the player, but I trust the situation a little bit more in Detroit with Amon-Ra.
Yeah, I'm going to go against your thoughts there because I actually, maybe not so much in redraft, but for dynasty wise, I'm all in with JJ McCarthy because I think he's just got the best setup outside of course, Caleb Williams right now. Just with if Hawk gets back, he's going to be out for another month or so of this season to start with. If Hawk gets back, you'll have that 3-headed monster there with Addison and of course Jefferson, and then figure out the run game from there. Whether it's Aaron Jones in the long term, which I don't think it is. I think that's a 1-year deal there, but we'll see what's going to happen there. But I do think that with having JJ on the outside for 4 years, I mean it's going to be. It is going to give all of the I guess he'll have no complaints. JJ McCarthy will have no complaints about how to throw the ball. JJ and Addison will teach him exactly how to throw the ball when he needs to. Let's dive in a little bit to this draft as it's going along. We got the first round completed.
One second. Before we pivot off that, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Nope, you're good.
How long of a leash in dynasty leagues? And we'll shoot to Rhett. We'll go to Drew. How long of a leash do we give JJ McCarthy, considering, because we keep saying that he has the best setup around him, how much time do we give him to develop as a quarterback in this league before we pull the plug on him? Are we giving him the same amount of time as we give Trevor Lawrence, considering Lawrence's situation in Jacksonville off the first year with Urban Meyer was just absolute shit show? These next 2 seasons, he kind of put it together, but JJ McCarthy wasn't seen as the same type of prospect that Trevor Lawrence was. Considering that and the situation he has around him, how long of a leash are we giving McCarthy?
Well, look at the player you have right in front of him sitting right now, Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold went, 2 overall, 3 overall, something like that to the Jets. In to be quite honest, I mean, what the Vikings took.
How long of a leash did he get in New York, right?
2 years. He got 2 years. Yeah.
So you're giving JJ McCarthy 2 years.
But then he's gotten 2 years with the Jets. Then he got a year with Carolina. Then he got this. He's just going to bounce around. So, I mean, but I think JJ McCarthy is a better, at least, prospect than Sam Darnold was. At least on paper. I think he is.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. Man. But I also think JJ's in a better situation with better leadership around him too, better coaching, all of that kind of stuff. I give him 2 years, but I think I think ultimately it's going to come down to the coaching staff. Can they develop him? We've seen that too many times with quarterbacks that haven't been able to be developed coming from a college program to the NFL. If you cannot develop the player in the NFL, then especially with the weapons that they have.
Yeah. And he's coming in with such a limited throwing profile too already, right?
I think that's a lot because of Michigan didn't ask for him to throw.
Sure. So did Michigan put him in a worse position to succeed at the next level because they didn't ask of him to do that too much? Was Michigan more concerned about winning a national title over the development of their star quarterback in JJ McCarthy?
Well, I think we're going to ask this question right now, and I think it's a very you're asking, was Jim Harbaugh more concerned with winning than he was developing players? I think this is Jim Harbaugh, so yeah, I'm a freaking loser. I mean, that's pretty straightforward, but I mean, having seen the JJ McCarthy tape, this is just a guy that I feel like he can make every throw. I've seen him make great throws.
But he can miss every throw too. You see 5 throws where he's making it, and you see 10 throws where you're just like, oh my God, like what am I watching here?
So in your mind, I mean, is it 2 years? Is it 3 years? I mean, we know he's going to go into an elite setup. We know Justin Jefferson is locked up for the next 4 years. We know Jordan Addison has that 5th-year rookie option because he's a first-round pick. There are a lot of things to like about what's around him. I think the only question that's going to be asked is this. Kevin O'Connell has thrown the ball a lot over the past few years. Do they take a step back if he goes in there this year with Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy? The question is, do they run the ball a little bit more? If they run the ball a little bit more and they ease him into the situation, then yeah, he probably has a little bit longer of a leash because you're putting him in a little bit better, more of a chance to succeed in that situation. So yeah, I think 2 years is a very fair place to start. I think 3 years is probably the peak. If he doesn't show anything after 3 years, then clearly you have to move forward. But with the way the league moves these days, I mean, if guys don't show it after 2 years, teams are usually moving on at that point.
Yep. Chris, you are on the clock here. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the first round. Again, this is a redraft, 1 QB, 1.5 tight end premium. We had Tyreek Hill, CD Lamb, Christian McCaffrey at the 1-3, Jamar Chase, Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson. Some great news for him today, saying he's going to be running the ball, 65 times per game. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Jahmyr Gibbs, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Puka Nacua to round out the first round. Wrapping around on the second, the 2-1 is Travis Kelce, followed by Drake London, Taylor, Nico Collins, Jonathan Taylor. I'm sorry. I'm looking at him like, who the hell is Taylor? Jonathan Taylor, Nico Collins, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brandon Ayuk, Sam Laporta, the second tight end off the board, Saquon Barkley, Kyron Williams, Chris Olave, Michael Pittman, and then Devontae Adams going off as 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Wide receiver 14 for Devontae Adams in this draft here. Get over to the chat. Let's say hello to a couple people here. Charlene Erickson is in the chat. There's CMC at 103. Eyes wide open. Da Equinox, Mr. Shia Bluff. Angie is in the chat. Albert in the chat as well. HoofTube hopping in. Did a best ball draft with him earlier where he kicked my hind end up and down the draft board. And then he did a mock with you, Chris. I saw you were in there.
Yep.
Jamie in the chat. Who's all's here? You guys smaller than my pinky toenail on my phone. We got 4 people here tonight, Jamie. Okay, Mr. Smarty Pants. He is talking. I think this is where Hoove jumps in and was talking about the when we were talking about JJ McCarthy. He says JJ McCarthy is leading the Vikings to the playoffs.
Yeah, and then you turned off your PS5. It's all good, Hoove.
Oof. Golly.
Maybe next year. And their defense isn't the greatest either. Like, their defense is going to put them in such bad situations.
Yeah, and in that
the offensive situation's good and all, but
in that NFC North, it's going to be hard to get 3 of them out of there, right? I mean, Packers are no slouch. What we presume will be a very good offense in Chicago,
and
or at least,
defense. Like,
and they got a great defense.
No
yes,
slouch in Chicago. And
then you look across the pond there and see old Detroit just getting better and better and better.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be a fun NFC North. I don't know if y'all just placed a bet on that, but what
are we betting? What do you want to bet? Hair for hair? What do you want to bet?
Hair. How does the third round reversal in your mind, Rhett, differ from Superflex to single QB?
Well, I think obviously the first thing you're going to see is that we haven't had a quarterback go off of the board yet in this Superflex in a single quarterback situation. Here we are, late round 3. Josh Allen is still on the board. I think in that third round reversal, and even in those first 2 rounds, you would have seen definitely by now Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, pretty much all of your top quarterbacks be off of the board. And in that third round reversal, I think that person who would be Chris in this situation, if he didn't have a quarterback already, knowing that the scarcity is there, he's probably there at the top of the third round, taking a quarterback. But I can't speak for Chris right there. So, Chris, you tell me what you would have done in that situation.
In a super flex?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, super flex, my strategy is always to take, maybe not so much in redraft dynasty leagues, more so is always to double up on the quarterback or at least hit 2 of them in the first 3 rounds. I was just in one with Hoove. over on the Optimist Fantasy channel, and I didn't really take one until the 5th or 6th round, and I got Justin Herbert as the QB 16. So if you're going to tell me I'm going to end up with Justin Herbert and Kirk Cousins as my top 2 QBs in a redraft super flex league, I'm happy with waiting on that value. I'll take that value all the time.
Yeah, let's Drew, what do you see is, because you put it in the private chat that we needed to not have it in there. So what's the difference for Superflex and single QB the third? Yeah,
no, I wasn't saying that you couldn't have it in there. I was saying if it was on accident and you wanted it fixed, that you would have to do it, because we were in the second round whenever I put that. Just because you typically see it more in dynasty startups than you do in redraft leagues. I don't think there's any issue with it, honestly. I mean, I think it helps balance out the draft. So redraft or dynasty, I don't think that there's any issue with having third round reversal. I kind of like it, honestly. So I have no problem with you leaving it in this. But I'm right in the middle, so it didn't really affect me too much. I was just saying for content purposes, hey, if you wanted to get this out, your timeline to be able to do so is shrinking. But I'm glad you left it in. I think it makes it interesting because you don't see a lot of redraft leagues like this.
Yeah, I actually, because of 2 years ago with Scott Fishbowl, which, scoring and all that'll be out this week. So hopefully we will have a Scott Fishbowl mock here next week. But with that in mind, I like to try to, that third round reversal has been something that I'm like, yes, that has got to be in just about every single draft. Because I truly think that if you draw that 12 spot, you always are at a disadvantage of getting the elite of the elites, right? Whether it's in Superflex or in one QB. Right. And then so you actually do still get that 25th player rated to come back around and kind of levels it up a little bit. So that was just my thought process there. I think that should be in most of them, if not all.
Is there tight end premium in this?
Yeah, 1.5. So
1.5.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
Shai wants to know which division will have the most firepower this season and will be fun for fantasy.
Which division?
I mean, the one we just talked about is going to be stout, right? The NFC North.
NFC North, yeah.
Yeah, the Vikings, the Lions, all those. The NFC West, too, is, there's not going to be no slouches over there for fantasy purpose, at least. Cardinals and the Rams and the Seahawks, another division. Yeah, the Niners, another division that's just going to produce fantasy points. I don't know what your take is on it.
You got the AFC North, too. You've got the Ravens and all their weapons. You got the Bengals, the Browns. The Browns and Steelers are so-so. They've got decent options, but that's got a couple solid teams in it. I know there's got to be somebody where – If you
put it this way, if we were in a 4-team or 8-team league and the players you got were from the division that you picked, what division would you take?
Right.
I think it would be for me, depending on if it was, again, redraft or dynasty. If it was redraft, I'm taking the NFC North. I'm sorry, the NFC East. NFC East with Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, that kind of. But if it's
solid two teams there, solid 2 teams.
But if it's dynasty, I'm looking at going AFC South, where I've got CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, and then you go up the street a little bit to Indianapolis, and then you still got whatever's going to happen in Jacksonville. Tennessee's starting to. I mean,
dynasty, I still might be taking NFC North.
You got the
receivers, young running backs, young quarterbacks. You got some might consider the tight end one in dynasty.
You've got the NFC East too. NFC East has got CeeDee Lamb and AJ Brown and Devonta Smith and Saquon and.
All right, it's the NFC South. All right, you can stop talking about it.
Mr. Jason Snyder from the Hopefuls jumping in saying, "What's up, guys? I need to know what the protection is going to be like for JJ McCarthy. It's not discussed enough. Which, what did they do anything with their offensive line this year to give him the protection?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know enough about their offensive line. I think that's a good point. That, to Jason's point, that probably doesn't get talked about enough. I know that the offensive line situation was not great last year, and I'm not sure if they addressed it much in the draft or through free agency this offseason. So I mean that is something worth mentioning, because being under pressure is certainly something J.J. McCarthy didn't have to worry about a ton in college. So that could be a very big change at the next level if the offensive line does perform poorly. So I think that that's a variable that does need a little bit more looking into. I think it's a good point.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point as well. I think that's another reason they brought over Aaron Jones, and because Alexander Madison wasn't worth the roster spot. At least get somebody that can run the ball, do a little bit of pass protection, right? Rhett, what's your feeling on what they've done this offseason with their offensive line? Anything jump out to you that
Well, looking it up right now, they appear to have 4 or 5 starters returning, which continuity is always a good thing in terms of offensive lines. And they re-signed both of the guys that were kind of in competition for that right tackle spot this offseason between Dalton Reisner and Blake Brandel. I mean, Reisner has a lot of experience in the league, got a lot of starts under his belt. But at the end of the day, a unit that wasn't very good last year, a unit that has a lot of continuity, for better or worse, doesn't necessarily mean that it is a good unit. Now, do they know each other a little bit better? Is there room for improvement because they've played together? Absolutely. So where we're at with that, I'm not really sure. But the good news with that is that at least if J.J. McCarthy doesn't have very good protection, he does have some mobility. So maybe you can sneak some rushing yards out of there in that situation as well. Who knows?
Their 2 best guys let up 12 sacks last year. So we'll just keep it at that.
Not great, Bob.
12 sacks, 15 hits. What am I at here? 37 hurry ups, 64 pressures. So it's not looking good for their protection. I think the best protection for J.J. McCarthy this year is going to be the bench. Let him sit on the bench behind Sam Darnold. Let's see what the Vikings have. Exactly.
Let's see Sam Darnold get beat up.
Yeah, let's see Sam Darnold get beat up. Because really, what's the Vikings' first few games? Is it? I haven't even really broke down their schedule yet. I haven't gotten to that portion of the redraft rankings and projections. But if their first few games is a murderer's row, why are you going to put them out there in a situation where the Vikings aren't projected to be good in the first place?
Oh, see.
Unless you're Hoof. Hoof's got him going to the playoffs. So.
Yep. When Waldron pushes the run and Chicago starts slow, Vikings going to creep up on the top 2. Just go get a ring and put you and Hoof in it.
To answer your question about the Vikings' early schedule right now, they open with the Giants. Okay, that's probably a win if they can pull it off. Then it's Niners, Texans, Packers, Jets, Lions, Rams, Colts, Jaguars, and then you might get a little bit of a break with the Titans at that point. So I'm just going to say this: Minnesota's early season schedule, not looking ideal.
Best protection's the bench, baby.
Going back to the 3rd round reversal, Jamie says that the Superflex almost always needs 3rd round reversal. He's never seen it in a single QB, but this is very interesting. Joe piping in said he's never even heard of the 3rd round reversal until now.
Welcome.
Welcome.
There you go.
Welcome.
It's a whole new world.
To Jamie's point, that's why we mock too, is to try out these different scenarios and things like that to figure out if you would like to do something like this for your league, or if your league does this, to be able to practice and get the reps in. So that's the whole beauty of this gorgeous show you guys got over here.
Yes, sir. Chris and I do try to pride ourselves in changing it up a little bit so that each time there's a little bit different going on. Get some different variations of mocks in here as well. So if that is something that you are definitely into, please hit that thumbs up for us, hit that like, smash that subscribe. We passed the 1,000 subscribers a couple weeks ago. We are already pushing that gas pedal down here, and I've got to tell everybody where it's at. It's the one that's on the right because everybody doesn't like to use the gas pedal. We're pressing that gas pedal on our way to 2,000 subs. Hopefully we can get there pretty quickly. We quicker than we got to the 1,000. That's the goal anyway. Streetsathon says the Super Bears Super Bowl is what he's calling it. Scampers is in the house.
So, Mr. Scampers.
Shy's got a trade offer here. Offered a 25 first and a 26 first for Jaden Daniels.
Oh,
Sorry,
no, it's Jaden
a 25
Daniels
first,
included.
a 26 first, Jaden Daniels for Stroud.
Ooh.
So you're getting
2 first and
three
Daniels.
first round picks because Daniels went in the
essentially
first
3
round.
first. Yeah.
For
Okay,
Stroud,
Daniels
is that-
was. I think Daniels has got to be almost worth 2 first at this point. No.
Well, here's the thing. I'm just saying where he went, and it is a super flex full PPR, but he went in the first round this year, so I'm counting him as a first. So you've got a 24 first, a 25 first, and a 26 first for CJ Stroud.
It would be
Boys?
tough to pass. Like, I mean, selling Stroud would not feel great right now with how awesome he looked his rookie year, but that's a tough package to pass up, though. Especially if you're just
really
middle
depends
of the
on
pack.
how high you are on Daniels.
Yeah, I agree with that
Yeah,
completely.
yeah, it does. Like, and he said he's middle of the pack, and that's the last place you want to be in Dynasty. Like, pick one. Either go all in and trade some picks and try to go win the thing, or blow it up and rebuild. And I mean, typically Stroud would be a piece you would want to build around, not sell to start a rebuild because he's so young. But that's an enticing package of picks and a player. It really comes down to, do you believe in Daniels or not? If you believe that Daniels is going to be a successful fantasy quarterback, you don't just say successful NFL quarterback, but if you think he has enough from a passing standpoint for his, to keep him on the field, because his legs are going to do enough for fantasy, but he has to be a productive passer to be able to stay on the field for NFL purposes. So if you believe that that'll be the case, I think it's a package worth taking. But man, it would be tough to sell Stroud, but that's intriguing.
Yeah, it's intriguing in a sense because, like, Chris, you know this, the quarterback landscape for the 25 class is not that good.
Yeah, as of right now,
So-
there's no Caleb Williams in it right now.
Well, there's no
There's
Caleb
always
Williams. There's
somebody that ends up.
Someone's gonna emerge,
Sure.
but there's no.
Right.
Sure.
It's like we're just hoping it's not like the Kenny Pickett year where.
But that's what I'm
you
saying.
know,
is somebody's
he's
gonna
the
Yeah, that was a
quarterback taken in the
disaster.
first.
Yeah.
somebody's
Yeah,
gonna
right.
emerge, and then everybody's gonna talk him up and talk themselves into him, pre-draft. And everybody's going to be like, okay, this is the 3 overall pick. And then you find out that he didn't even get picked in the first round of the NFL draft. So now it's like, what do we do now? Yes, that's happened in the past. It'll happen again. And I fear that next year will be that year. But with him being in the middle of the pack of this league, you're getting 1 first next year. You're getting Jaden Daniels. What does the rookie class next year look like, whether it's wide receiver, running back? That makes this make even more sense that he could possibly go out there and get an BK or something like that.
Yeah, I mean the class next year, positionally wise, is stout in my opinion. Wide receivers, there's at least 3 or 4 that you can make a case would probably fit ahead of. Maybe even Odunze. I'm not going to say Odunze. Odunze was an elite talent. I won't put 3 or 4 guys ahead of. I'd probably put 2 guys ahead of Odunze there with Tet McMillan and Luther Burden. The other guys would probably just file in behind Odunze, Evan Stewart, and the other guys like that. But running back wise, I mean, there could be 4 to 5 guys that come into the league next year, or at least projected to come into the league next year, that can solidify starting jobs in the NFL. So you can get a nice package for CJ Stroud there. And if you're looking at I don't think you can move Jaden Daniels for a straight up first right now. For a 25 first. You guys agree with that across the board? Like, would you move Jaden Daniels for a 25 first right now?
Just a random 25 first?
Yeah.
No, I would just keep Daniels.
2 firsts?
Yeah, I consider it at that point.
So at that point, you're putting Stroud's value at 4 first-round picks. 4 first-round picks to me is like I don't know how you guys value Josh Allen, but picks wise, Josh Allen's like 4 or 5 first round picks.
Yeah. No, I would agree.
Well, he
And
took
I think
Go ahead, Drew.
I was just going to say, in terms of like, if you're getting 4 picks, I also think it depends on how the picks are spread out. Like,
I wish it was 225 firsts over the 20.
Yeah, like if 2-3 of the first are in next year's draft and they're not spread out like across 3 years, then that's more enticing for me than if I got to wait that long to see it play out. So some context would help as far as stuff like that goes too. It always changes there. But I mean, it sounds like he took the pick. So
yep, he took the pick. So Rhett, I want to get Rhett's take on this. So basically, he took the 25 first, 26 first, Jaden Daniels, and he gave up Stroud. Now, right after he put in there that he took the picks, Tony comes in and says that Daniels will score more fantasy points than Stroud. And I'm assuming this year is his opinion.
And I think that's interesting because we are putting a lot of stock in that Jaden Daniels rushing upside. And we are putting a whole bunch of stock in that. But at the same time, if we're going to look at it as an apples to apples comparison, if Jaden Daniels runs for 700 yards and ends up with 8 rushing touchdowns, what does CJ Stroud have to do in order to match that sort of production? Does he have to throw for 4,500 yards and 35 touchdowns to make that happen? It's just rushing quarterbacks are a heck of a lot more of an efficient way to get those fantasy points. It's why we fell in love with Anthony Richardson last year, despite the fact that he wasn't a super efficient passer. And,
but he also was a super efficient passer, as it turns out.
Yeah, so the fear was heading into the year that he wasn't going to be a super efficient passer, and come to find out, well, he was further ahead of the curve than he actually was. So if that happens, we get size. Yeah, we keep going to the small sample size, but at the end of the day,
if Richardson did not work so bad.
No, I like Richardson. Go on, Rhett.
At the end of the day, what's going to happen is if Jaden Daniels ends up showing some of that surprise passing upside that Anthony Richardson showed last year, then we are going to be cooking with a lot of grease. And then that CJ Stroud package where you give up Jaden Daniels to get him back kind of looks like a bit of a disaster at that point.
Yeah, Josh piping in and says it's the Daniels side, and it's not even close. And
if you believe in Daniels, then I think that should be the case.
Well, I don't necessarily think at this point, he's not stepped on the field yet. So it doesn't matter if you believe in Daniels or not, right? If you believe that you can still get 2 first rounds, like Chris said, you're playing in the middle of the pack. If somebody comes to you right now, tomorrow, you make this deal, somebody comes to you tomorrow and says, I'll give you an additional 25 first, an additional 26 first for Daniels. Whether you believe in Daniels or not, you're probably sending him. And then you end up with these first round picks, you're going to rebuild your team.
Yeah, no, I was just saying for you to feel like the deal's not close, if you believe in Jaden Daniels, it's fair to feel that way. But if you're kind of on the fence about Jaden Daniels, I do think it's a close deal because we saw just how incredible Stroud was. We've already seen it on the field. We don't have to wonder what Stroud is anymore. So if there's any question mark in your head of what Daniels is, I do still think that's a questionable trade to take.
He says he's got Caleb
swimming
Williams.
in riches. This guy's Scrooge McDuck swimming in a pool full of quarterbacks.
That's right.
Scrooge McDuck. Yes. And then Mr. John McGlynn checking in. He's at work listening to the stars of the Fourth and Frames crew here. All right, let's see. Where are we at on this draft? Man, we've just kind of been letting the draft play in the background, and third round goes like this: DJ Moore, Derrick Henry, Travis Etienne, Isaiah Pacheco, Stephon Diggs, Devon Achane, Mike Evans, Trey McBride, the third tight end off the board, Jalen Waddle, Deebo Samuel at the 310. And then at 311, our very first quarterback, and it is Josh Allen, Cooper Kupp to round out the third round. Fourth round is Jalen Hurts, Dalton Kincaid, Malik Neighbors, Mark Andrews, Devontae Smith, Lamar Jackson, Kyle Pitts, Josh Jacobs, Patrick Mahomes, DK Metcalf, Tank Dell, and Zay Flowers, ending the fourth round. So when you're looking at this, the top 4 rounds here, is there anybody that stands out to you that either does not belong or that somebody got value on that particular player, Rhett?
Looking at these top 4 rounds, somebody who really doesn't belong, or perhaps you're looking at an extreme value right now. I'm just going to go ahead and looking toward the end of that 4th round. I mean, seeing Josh Jacobs fall that hard with the opportunity we're anticipating him happen this year. I mean, late 4th round value on a guy that is presumed to be the number 1 running back with an unknown behind him, with a couple of unknowns because A.J. Dillon really hasn't quite panned out. I mean, I think everyone's sort of expecting for Josh Jacobs to come in and have quite a bit of volume this season. So I think that's a pretty interesting value at that point.
Drew, the one that stands out to you?
I just want to highlight Shiloh LaBeouf, his start. I love getting Garrett Wilson and Drake London at the back of the first and start of the second. Those guys, man, they are like the poster children for how much quarterback play can matter, because those two dudes, all the underlying metrics say that Garrett Wilson and Drake London have had an incredible start to their career. But if you just box score stat, you're like, what the hell are you talking about? These guys stink. But like the quarterback play for those two guys specifically since they entered the league, between the injuries to Aaron Rodgers and Drake London having to play with Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke, it's just like those two guys have been incredible, but the offenses haven't been able to do anything. And I think this is the year that both of them, assuming that Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers have a healthy season, I think that they explode on the fantasy scene and show how good they really are. So to get both of those guys at the 1-2 turn like that, I thought that was gorgeous. I was hoping Drake London somehow made it back to the middle of the second, and that hope didn't last very long. But I thought it was smart picks. I like that. And then just seeing the quarterback one not go off the board until almost the 3-4 turn. I'm a big proponent of waiting on quarterback usually, but I think that's great value at that point as well.
Chris, which one stands out to you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Rhett there and say Josh Jacobs as the running back 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think that's going to be great value as Brocal's, or should I say Sleeper's first running back off the board, with Jefferson, Harrison, and Diggs as his 3 wide receivers, Stroud, Reed. Solidifying your running back room with Jacobs, Swift, and Pollard is not a bad start there. Another one, and I absolutely hate doing this, but Kyle Pitts, man, I'm like, picked where he was there on that offense. Like Drew said, the quarterback upgrade is going to mean a lot, and he's getting a quarterback that just loves his tight ends. And Kyle Pitts is just a guy that we know can produce on the field. So I think Kyle Pitts there, drafted as the tight end 6, is some pretty good value, because I can see him finishing as a top 3 tight end at the end of the season.
Yeah, I want
you,
Kyle
Gator?
Pitts
what's your pick?
And, I want Kyle Pitts and Anthony Richardson on every single one of my teams this year. Everyone.
Let that be noted that if you're drafting with Drew, you're gonna have to reach for Kyle Pitts or Anthony Richardson.
Absolutely.
Well, and not to, I'll go back to my player in just a second, but I do want to touch on the Kyle Pitts, because I think Drew and I have had this conversation in the past. This year, I'm higher on Pitts than most, or I thought I was. And I've done a couple drafts over the last couple days. Even in best ball right now, Kyle Pitts is starting to creep up that board a little bit more, where it's almost feels uncomfortable to go grab him because it's a bit early for me. Because
I got him at tight end 4. I would have taken him earlier if I had to, but I knew I could wait. I got him up at tight end 4 this year. I think that there's like 5 tight ends that realistically could finish as the tight end 1. And I think it's kind of the same way at quarterback too, honestly. Like I think that there's 5, maybe 6 quarterbacks that could finish as the quarterback 1. So there's
only
a large
one tight end that can finish as the tight end 1, Drew.
Okay, technically, guys, Mr. Semantics, get me out of here.
The one guy that I still think stands out to me when looking at this board here, and it went off as wide receiver 24, and that's DK Metcalf. You're going off of what was his worst year since his rookie year last year, and he still ended up as wide receiver 21 on the year last year. I'm just saying he's still going to get you 1,000 yards. His lowest season was 6 TDs. He's getting you 1,000 yards every year, 90 receptions just about every year, 140 balls, 140 targets every year. It's like this dude. And don't get me wrong, I understand the quarterback situation with Geno Smith, but I mean, still, I still feel like DK should be going way higher because he has that super. He just blows up. He can just blow up.
Yep.
But yeah,
Yep,
DK
agreed.
Metcalf going off at 20, at what, the 410 just seems like a value to me as well.
Yeah, if he can steal that Odunze role in that grub offense, I think sky's the limit for DK Metcalf. I think I got him ranked right around this spot. I don't have my rankings open. I think I have him ranked right around this spot. So it'd be hard to take him ahead of guys like, I don't think I'm taking him ahead of DJ Moore. I'm okay taking Metcalf ahead of Diggs. I'm okay taking Metcalf over Waddle at this point. I'm okay with taking Metcalf over Malik Neighbors and Devonta Smith, really.
Yeah, Debo's
a tough one only because, and it hasn't been the same as it was like 3 years ago. It's just the rushing upside that he holds and the position that he has in that offense. Like he has scheme touches every game coming his way out of the backfield. So there's a good possibility for him to get fantasy points in that role. So it'd be hard for me to put Metcalf above Debo, but I would have no problem taking Metcalf above Debo Samuel.
Well, I do want to point this out because I know cats don't listen to a damn thing. We're talking about the first 4 rounds, and Scampers has got to come in here and talk about Amari Cooper going in the 5th round. But Amari Cooper going in the 5th round, 24, 5, 6, 7, 28, wide receiver 28 here. Great value there for him as well. I being the one in that offense. Now, the one thing that scares me is you do have what was in it, or maybe he still is, a very elite route runner coming in there in Jerry Jeudy. Is there going to be any kind of, I don't know if how much he's going to nip into Amari Cooper's targets, but I think there's going to be a little bit of downtick there. No Joe Flacco, so you don't have to worry about David Njoku this year. So we're good there. Anything else you want to add on Amari Cooper?
My bad. No, just really it's going to come down to the health of Deshaun Watson. Can he get back to the quarterback that we know he can be on Cleveland? So for me, that's what it's going to be. The whole Cleveland offense as a whole is a situation that I don't really want too much stock in redraft because of the just unknown of what's going to come out of that offense. Out of the backfield, we don't know what's happening with Chubb or who's going to be the guy running the ball, who's going to be the number one pass catching option there. Jerry Jeudy's there as well. They brought in Jerry Jeudy. So how much of that is going to affect Amari Cooper, if at all? So it's good value where he got him, but how much more higher is he going to finish above where he's drafted? I do want to talk though about how well Rhett has rebounded with his hero RB strategy with his last 4 picks and that block of running backs. Rhett, was that something that you wanted to do coming into the draft to see how it would play out for you, or were you just letting the draft fall to you?
I was kind of letting the draft fall to me. If I'm looking at this draft, Ramondre Stevenson, there's Antonio Gibson there, but this New England offense is a bit of a crapshoot, but we know Ramondre has been there for the past few years, and with Gerard Mayo knowing him, he's probably going to have a pretty steady load no matter what. Zamir White is a guy that I'm really high on this season. I believe that he's going to be the running back 1. Not running back 1 overall, obviously, but I think he's going to get the lion's share of those touches. Dylan Lobb maybe coming in on 3rd down, but I think he's going to be the guy there. Zach Moss in Cincinnati, him and Chase Brown, a little bit of a crapshoot there, but I kind of like the value there. And then the guy I probably like the most out of all of those is getting Devin Singletary in the 10th round, because he is going to be, they signed him in free agency. They only added Tyrone Tracy in the draft, who only has 1 year running back experience. That is just a guy who, in the late 10th round, if you're telling me you have an unquestioned guy who has a potential 3-down role and you can get him in the 10th round, I'm all over that all day. So really, more or less, the draft falling to me in that situation. But Just a matter of value at that point, and knowing that receivers are going to be a lot easier to come by later in these last 3 rounds.
Like it.
Yeah, I want to look it up right quick, but I do think last year with Devin Singletary, because I love the Devin Singletary pick, but last year just under 1,000 yards there in Houston. Also 30 of 38 catching the ball. So if he can be that outlet for Daniel Jones, I think that's a huge deal. Getting him in the 10th round, as your RB5 on your team,
and then able to bounce back in the 11th to get Romeo Doubs as your 4th wide receiver. I mean, you could do worse in that situation. So,
yeah, I think the way this draft has panned out with it, even with the 1.5 tight end premium, I think this has been an interesting case study when you go from the dynasty to the redraft side of things. Where did we end up with in the 4th round there? So let's go to the 5th round. T. Higgins, Amari Cooper, George Kittle, Rashid Rice, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, George Pickens, Evan Ingram, James Cook, Rashad White, Christian Kirk, Joe Mixon. Starting the 6th round with Alvin Kamara, Jake Ferguson, Kenneth Walker, Terry McLaurin, Keenan Allen, Jordan Addison, Chris Godwin, Jaden Reed, Calvin Ridley, Kyler Murray, David Montgomery, James Conner to end the 6th round there. James Conner is interesting to me. I'm pretty high on James Conner this year, even though they got Trey Benson, who will, anything that I've put out there on Twitter, I've said Trey Benson was my pre-draft, was my RB1 in the class. What is your opinion of James Conner this year, Drew?
I think James Conner is a guy we've kind of been counting out every year, just waiting for somebody to overtake him. But I think the reality is this is the first year that Arizona has really invested any type of significant draft capital or cap space in a backup running back to give somebody that chance. Before it was Trey Benson, it was guys like Amari DiMarcardo, and I'm going blank on the other dude's name, but it's been, day 3 running backs, undrafted guys that just aren't anybody that can really even compete with James Conner. But now he has some actual legit competition with Trey Benson, who's a guy that he excels in areas where James Conner never really has, and especially doesn't now in terms of his explosiveness and things like that. So I do think that he can give this offense a different element that they haven't had out of the backfield. And I think that even without injury, there could be a world where the younger, more talented running back just comes out and ends up playing better down the stretch. There's going to be a learning curve in terms of pass blocking and things like that to be able to really stay on the field. But I think he's a guy you could see that starts out slow but carves out a bigger role down the stretch and could possibly, with as good of an offense as Arizona is, he's one of those guys that if he does get a hold of that lead position before the end of the year, he could be a league winner. So I don't mind taking a throw on him there where he did it all. It was actually Jonathan Brooks, the guy he took 1 round before that. That was I had him queued up. I was hoping to take him in the 8th round. I think that's another guy that is a great pick there. So I think he's got a couple really good high upside running backs there at the back of his draft. So I like those 2 picks both a lot.
Yeah, the James Conner, just throwing this out there, not that it matters anything to redraft, but this is the final year of his contract. So, and he is starting to get up there in age. So that could be the whole Trey Benson, go get Trey Benson, and then you have basically the exact same back size-wise back there and move right along with Kyler Murray. Chris, anything stand out to you? I don't know if I need to read the rest of this, the round 7, 8, 9, 10 off of here, but what's standing out to you as far as these builds are concerned when you're looking at the board?
Just a couple teams with 2 QBs, not something that I would really reach for in single quarterback drafts. I get it based on the positional value of the players that were going around him. I would just try to maybe take some shots there. We're only doing 13 rounds, but I'd probably take some shots there, like Devin Singletary in a 1 QB. If I already have Caleb Williams, I'm probably fading Jared Goff there, seeing Jaden Daniels, Justin Herbert, Tua Tagovailoa, and Trevor Lawrence still on the board, right? So if I'm going to carry a QB2, I don't need to carry a player like Jared Goff with the health of the quarterback situation still on the draft board. So I'm not going to stress that out. So for me, the builds, just the 2 QB builds or like the 2 tight end builds early in the draft are probably the situations that I would try to stay away from.
Yeah, I just want to. We had a question on one of the draft shows a couple weeks ago, and when we do these drafts, we don't do all 25 rounds or 26 rounds. We're just basically giving you the starting lineup and then a couple of the first half of the bench, basically with most of these drafts. Just giving you an idea of what people are building, how people are thinking when they do their builds. So. If you have questions about players, why certain players weren't drafted, that's probably why.
Yep, absolutely. But then again, I mean, the value I'm getting on Justin Herbert and all these 1 QB drafts as my first QB. I mean, I'm gonna take it every
round,
time.
Man.
He's a quarterback in a system that utilizes the quarterback's feet. We always preach rushing upside this and rushing upside that. 8 of his last 12 games are in a dome. He has a stretch of 3 home games in that time. If you look at his playoff schedule, it's juicy. His championship matchup, not the greatest. It's against the New England Patriots, but the 2 games before that are nice matchups. And then he's got the Chiefs, which most likely won't be a shootout because Jim Harbaugh is just going to try to drag the Chiefs down into the mud. But just considering the history of the scheme that Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman run, I am confident that Justin Herbert is going to finish as a QB1, not the QB1, but as a top 12 finish, weekly scorer, end of season scorer when it's all said and done, man. It's just, he's too good of a passer to not. Yes, he doesn't have the weapons that, say, a Jared Goff or a Brock Purdy or Jordan Love might have, but he's too good of a passer to not utilize. He's not as unpolished as JJ McCarthy is. He's too good of a passer to not utilize those assets, and he's known to use his legs. He averages 55 carries a season.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah, ask
Chris. Give me the ceiling on Justin Herbert's rushing upside this season for you.
As in, like, totals? You want me the absolute
like
highest amount rush totals?
Yeah, total rushing yards, sure.
I got highest projection right now for Justin Herbert, 65 carries, 575 yards, 6 rushing touchdowns.
Okay, it's funny that you said that because in 2021, he had 63 carries, 302 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
So
I think they're going to utilize him a whole lot.
That's the most he's been utilized on the ground since he's come into the league.
And then you go back to what they did with, you go back to their stat. I posted about this on my Twitter. You go back to their Stanford days. Who'd they have? Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck, prolific passer, good with his feet, great with his feet. And then they got Alex Smith. Alex Smith, when he was on San Francisco with them, 55, 56 carries a season. He didn't throw the ball, 17 passing touchdowns. There's not a world that we live in where Justin Herbert throws less than 20 passing touchdowns. I just can't see it happening.
Jamie says Deontay in the 7th is elite value. He'd rather have Deontay over Amari Cooper. Straight up, getting that huge discount. You all 3 of you are with that.
Yep, definitely. I definitely enjoy the discount on Deontay. Yeah.
Never trust the Cleveland Browns offense. Comes in with can you see a scenario where the Giants sign Kareem Hunt? Now, take Kareem Hunt out of it. Is there a scenario that the Giants go out here and get another running back? I mean, are they all compared to?
I don't think the backfield's good enough for them to be like, no, we definitely don't need running back help. But I also don't know if the team is going anywhere to where they're like, oh, we got to get a running back to fill this void because we're going to be a competitive team. I don't. They have the room to need it, but I don't know if they're going to care that they need it. Is kind of how I feel about it.
All right,
Yeah,
so if we're
that's
talking
perfect.
about remaining free agent running backs here in the 2024 season heading in. Dalvin Cook, washed. Cam Akers, 2 Achilles injuries. Josh Kelly, bum. Latavius Murray, old. Kareem Hunt, Matt Breida, Jack McKinnon. And that's about the list of people that potentially even matter.
Yeah. No,
Unless
thank
you're
you.
going into the Keyshawn Vaughn territory, which we aren't. So pickings are slim at this point. So if the Giants are going to get somebody, act now, and the guy that they might be most appealing, that might seem most appealing, would be Josh Kelly. And as Drew likes to say all the time, not great, Bob.
Well, I think the one thing we forget about right now is there may be still a few players out there that we not speaking of that we don't know about as much with the UFL. That's that.
Yeah,
Their playoffs
And
are coming
cuts.
over. They're
Roster
fixing to be
cuts.
done. So you could see something come up there.
You got a name? Got a name for us?
Nope, I do not.
Neither
I just
does
thought
the
about that as
NFL.
Rhett was just straight trashing all these other running backs that all suck and saying they're washed like Dalvin Cook. So what do you expect?
He is, but bye.
What do you expect from Pat Freiermuth this year, Rhett?
Pat Freiermuth saw a tweet earlier today. Didn't remember who it was from, but there is a lot of flack given to the Arthur Smith offense. That Kyle Pitts wasn't used enough last year, but there were 173 tight end targets last year in that Arthur Smith offense. And Pat Freiermuth is unquestionably the best receiving tight end in that room. Darnell Washington, despite all the athleticism stuff, was very much a blocking tight end last year. So we've seen Arthur Smith do some funky stuff in the past. Yeah, I'm all tongue twisted right now. Excuse me. But at the end of the day, you have to really enjoy that Pat Freiermuth upside coming into the year.
Yeah, and the good news is Johnny Smith has already been signed by a different team, so Arthur Myth can't go sign him to mess up the.
We're back, baby.
Yeah, so I actually like Pat Freiermuth in this offense. I mean, like, so you assume George Pickens is the one, but who's going to be the two in that offense? And why can't it be Pat? And that's what we want from these late dart throw tight ends, right? Is the path to where they could be at least the number 2 target in their offense. And I mean, and Pat has that. So I think he's a good value right now.
I saw that same tweet, and the first thing that went through my mind was Kyle Pitts. That's the first thing that went through my.
The reality is, it doesn't matter how many times the tight end was targeted in that offense last year because the targets sucked. So, like, who gives a shit if a bunch of the throws were in Kyle Pitts had the lowest amount of targets that went at least 10 yards or less, I think is what it was. He had the lowest percentage of targets among tight ends that went 10 yards or less. So they were asking him to do nothing but stretch the field and be Superman while getting thrown to by quarterbacks that didn't have the ability to stretch the field. So it's like, hey, go run these unwinnable routes all season. Doesn't matter how good of a route you run. The quarterback's not going to hit you, but we're going to just send you downfield and send you deep all season. And we're going to do that with quarterbacks that can't get you the ball. So it's like, yeah, they targeted the tight end a lot last year, but the quality of the targets were ass. So it doesn't really matter. But the quarterback play in Pittsburgh should be better than what Kyle Pitts dealt with last year in Atlanta. And Pat Freiermuth is a talented tight end in his own right. So there's some upside there.
And Muth also gets better quarterback play this year, considering he dealt with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph last year. So upgrades all around. Everybody's winning.
Drew, just one more thing. When breaking down previous Atlanta Falcons quarterbacks, you can just stop at had the inabilities. You don't have to say deep ball after that.
Yeah, that's true. They really didn't have any abilities.
They were
That's
just
a fair point.
they were just not able to do anything.
Yeah,
Just wanna let-
I don't think you could have ever asked me to put together a worse quarterback room over a 2-year period and done a better job of it than what they did in Atlanta. I mean, that was just.
Hey, they're trying to beat
Jesus
it again this year, man.
Say what you want about the quarterback room and how they invested in it. It's definitely a lot fucking better than what it was before.
Yeah, hands down.
Yeah, I went ahead and pulled the draft board down. I will add that to the to Twitter so everybody can see what the late rounds looked like there for that as we start to wrap this thing up. Don't forget, Hit that like for us. Hit that subscribe for us. Get us on our way to 2,000. John McGlynn jumps in. Where do you think Trevor Lawrence finishes this year? QB 1-5, 6-10, 11-15, 16-20. And are you taking Lawrence over Herbert this year, Chris?
I got Lawrence finishing in the 11 to 15 range, and I wouldn't be mad if I'm taking Lawrence over Herbert this year. Lawrence does have the better overall weapons. When you're looking at the pass game, he does utilize his feet as well. So he does have the ability, or he will be in the situation to finish over Herbert. But I mean, I'm okay taking Herbert over Lawrence as well, which I did.
Yep, I've got Herbert at 13 and Lawrence at 15. So I guess to answer John's question, I've got him in that 11 to 15 range, but I do have Herbert a couple of spots ahead of him. But my tier 4 at quarterback is my quarterback 10 through my quarterback 18. So it's just one gigantic tier of backing.
Pick your guy at that point, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's 9 guys that I feel good about. And then after that, it's kind of a crapshoot of guys that I think that you can be more than happy with as your QB1 in a 1 quarterback league, which is, so I think that waiting on quarterback could definitely be a very valid strategy this year. If you miss out on the guy that you like a lot early on, there's a lot of guys you could pick from. So, and Lawrence is one of them, and so is Herbert. I got
a hypothetical for you guys. If you were to put Herbert onto Jacksonville, where would Herbert slide in your rankings?
Top 10.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So a lot of what Herbert's value is based on where you're ranking him is based on
the team around him. I mean, the team around him,
which is fair.
Yeah. I do think I'm kind of in the middle. Like I do think that the slide has gone too far, but there's still enough concern of like just listening to what the Chargers have been telling us. I mean, hiring Harbaugh, bringing Greg Roman, signing Gus Edwards,
J.K. Dobbins.
Taking a tackle in the top 5 as opposed to getting Herbert another weapon. I know they took Ladd later on, but I believe that they are telling us they're going to run the ball, and I think that's going to be the case. But Herbert's not going to turn into a bad quarterback all of a sudden. Like, he's still going to be a good quarterback. He's still going to be efficient with the opportunities he gets. So I don't think the upside is there, but I think that he is a really safe pick where he's going, and I think that he should be going a little bit earlier. But I understand why he's not going in that top 6-7 quarterbacks like he has in years past also, though.
Yeah, Jamie piping in, doesn't Stacy really like Washington at tight end? No. She doesn't care about Washington at tight end. She likes his 12-inch hands.
Yeah, she just likes the hand size.
Faith in the house. Do you people ever sleep? Also, hi, friends. Go Dogs. Okay, you've never heard me say that, Faith. You tricked me.
Clip it. You really are like Ron Burgundy, aren't you?
Josh Palmer breakout season.
Maybe
I think Josh Palmer is a good value too. I do, and I know you guys already brought that up, so I won't preach on that or anything. But I think he's a good dart thrower where he's going right now.
Well, like $2 a fab, $2
Yeah, he's basically free. And whenever he was healthy last year and he was on the field for like 75% plus snaps, he was putting out good fantasy games. Now, there wasn't a ton of games that he hit those thresholds, but whenever he did, he was productive. And that, and then Keenan Allen, that was whenever Keenan Allen was there. And now there is no Keenan Allen, there is no Mike Williams. I know we're expecting Ladd to step in, and maybe he does, but Josh Palmer getting to be like, there's a world where he could just be outside lining up for a ton of snaps. And if you play enough snaps with Justin Herbert, you're going to have productive games. So you could do worse at the end of your drafts.
This is what I love about hanging.
Quentin Johnson.
I took him with the last pick in my. I was looking with the last pick in my draft here. I think he's another guy that like there. Matt Harmon said it best that like there was nothing that told you that in his college profile that Quentin Johnston was just a set it and forget it, like put him on the outside and just have him run routes type of guy. Like his college profile didn't tell you that, but that's how the Chargers used him. I'm saying this much worse than how Matt Harmon said it, but essentially that maybe they just misscouted the player, and if he's used more correctly, if he's used as more of a big slot or something like that, or a guy that is just like give him yak opportunities. Like that's where he excelled in college was get the ball in his hands and let him make plays. He didn't get to do a ton of that, so I think it's a good reset for Quentin Johnston. I'm I'm not like 100% in on the breakout happening this year or anything, but I also don't hate, throwing a dart at him in the 14th round either and seeing if there is something there. If this coaching staff sees a way that the previous coaching staff didn't to put him to use, he is still attached to an elite quarterback. I still believe that Justin Herbert is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. And so if they can figure out how to properly use Johnston, I mean, the targets are there for somebody to grab, man, and you can do a lot worse the 14, 15 round than that. So.
Yeah, and as Josh says right here, the Chargers preview is up on the YouTube channel. And it is chock full of Josh Palmer love. Now, real quick, we got to get wrapped up out of here, but I did want to bring this up since both of these players we're currently talking about and the Chargers. So, Rhett, I want to talk to you about this. You had Josh Palmer go at 11-3. Great value for Josh Palmer. But Ladd McConkey went at 7-9 in this draft we just finished up.
Brother.
Yeah. Ladd McConkey is a guy that I really love in rookie drafts, but as we're heading into this sort of situation, I'm going to say this with Ladd is that year one wide receivers, especially guys who come in a bit undersized in a very murky situation where it's going to seem like it's going to be a by committee situation. I mean, if Ladd McConkey is going, what was it, 4 rounds earlier than Josh Palmer? I'm not that seems like something I wouldn't do. I think if we're going by value, I think Josh Palmer's the guy I prefer in that situation for sure.
Yeah, I think I agree there. I already know Drew does with what he just said, but Chris, QJ was supposed to be raw. Mr. Scamper says he's proven that he is raw.
Yep.
So is it because of the dynasty, brains that we're sitting there going, we hate him because he is exactly what he was supposed to be?
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. There's no more wide receivers don't get the 3-year breakout anymore. Before because we've gotten these Garrett Wilsons, Puka Nakuas, we've gotten all these guys with these, year one hits that we're not giving these wide receivers an opportunity to come into form, especially a guy raw like Quentin Johnston is. It's just situational based. He's going into another new system that, let's be honest here, hasn't been great for the wide receivers year in and year out. The frustration that we've had with the Baltimore Ravens wide receiver room has stemmed from the play calling and the scheme that they've run. So take the value for Quentin Johnston because it's there. We don't know who's going to be the wide receiver 1 in this room. It could be spread out across the board. We have Will Dissly too at tight end. But at the end of the day, Quentin Johnston could be the guy that leads the room in touchdown catches because of the player that he is and the size that he has. So if you're going to pick a guy and hope for some upside, hope for some boom weeks, it could be Quentin Johnston, because if they do get down there, he can't catch. That's also a problem. If they do get down there,
that is pretty important for receivers.
Wide receivers are supposed to be able to do one thing.
Maybe he should pivot to DB. But it's just going to be, I mean, DJ Shark on the Chargers, there's not, I mean, if I'm playing in a deep best ball league, I might pop DJ Shark because he might have that 1 week that he pops that wins me the week. Like, I think for the most part, outside of Justin Herbert, the whole Chargers offense is a best ball offense.
I was just fixing to bring that up. DJ Shark, Ladd McConkey, I mean,
the running backs,
I like Gus Edwards at cost in redraft leagues too. I'm happy to push the button in a regular redraft league on Gus Edwards. Like, I believe this offense wants to run the ball, and as much as they don't want it to be Gus Edwards because he's not exciting, the dude does nothing but just rattle off 5 yards per carry whenever he's on the field. And
he could have that Jamal Williams type season where he just scores 12, 15 touchdowns, right?
Yeah, well, he just had like 13 touchdowns last year. So
they just gotta get down there. That's the problem.
Yeah, when I say
he's actually Greg Roman, like Greg Roman, him and Greg Roman are very familiar with each other. Plus, so I'm Justin Herbert and Gus Edwards are the 2 Chargers that I'm confident taking at ADP right now. Outside of that, for me, it does feel kind of just like a crapshoot. But those are the 2 guys I'm pretty comfortable taking where they're going. Yeah,
when I'm talking about, best ball, I'm looking strictly at their wide receiver room. I'm not even.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I'm not even
I agree
looking at
100%.
their any of the other stuff. So don't forget about Stone Smart. Don't forget about Stone Smart. Jamie's
That's the
big on
bottom line.
Vidal. Yeah, he's big on Vidal. And Chris, you and I had Pat Fitzmaurice on, who is also big on Kamani Vidal. So there's another running back in that room there. So let's get this thing out of here. We can sit here and talk for another 4 hours the way the four of us go. And it probably might happen. It just won't be on air. So don't forget to hit that like, hit that subscribe for us over here, Club Fantasy FFL on the YouTube. If you're not already, go ahead and fix that for us. Don't forget, our schedule looks like this tomorrow night. Best Ball Masterclass is on at 8:30. That's usually myself and Stacey Perez, but tomorrow night, Stacey will be flying. So it'll be me and a guest professor. And as I believe we also have a guest coming in. So we'll have me and two guests, basically.
Is it Professor X?
It could be. Could be. No, it's going to be Joe Worth. Joe Worth is going to be teaching a little bit of best ball. We're gonna get a whole nother side of the coin here from Joel. How he does stuff compared to how Stacey does stuff. Wednesday morning, we have Who's Your Caddy, the Golf DFS show. Wednesday night, our flagship show, no pun intended, at 7 p.m. Saturday morning at 11, Mock It Like It's Hot. Sunday morning at 11, Dynasty After Party. And then next Monday, right here, same bat time, same bat channel, Mocking with the Stars at 10 p.m. Chris, do you know who we have next week with you and me?
You always do this to me, and I always don't know.
SFB 13 winner.
Nice.
Joining us.
Well, wasn't neither of us.
No, it was not neither one of us. It was not. But we will be doing an SFB mock next week.
That's awesome.
Right
with
here.
the winner.
With the SFB winner. And we've got some good little nuggets about Mr. Jeb. So interesting. Rhett, let the viewers know where they can find you and what you're working on, sir.
I can be found on at Armanuel Sports on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Currently trying to crank out some redraft, dynasty, rookie content for fantasyandframes.com. As usual, every Wednesday night with these two guys right here. Fourth and Frames at 9 Eastern on the Fantasy and Frames Network. These two dudes are literally my two favorite dudes to work with in the entire business. So it's an honor to do it every week with them. Besides that, just trying to do it the right way, just trying to get this research in and trying to talk myself into players that we may not necessarily want to talk ourselves into, like Rico Dowdle. So, hey, good times all around.
Good times all around. Drew, let the people know where they can find you. What you got going on?
Yeah, so I'm over on Twitter at Drew3Amar, as you can see on the screen. As Rhett said, these two guys, we get together every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. to talk ball. We got that over on the Fantasy and Frames YouTube channel. And I've also got a Kyle Pitts Dynasty Target article coming out soon. He's the tight end 6 in Dynasty ADP right now. That's about 4 spots too low, so there's still time to buy Kyle Pitts. That's the good news. I'm going to tell you why that is in the article and video that'll be coming out here in the near future. So that'll be coming out along with the weekly content that Rhett and Chris and I do over there on Fourth and Frames every Wednesday night. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
He waited till freaking 1 hour, 18 minutes into the show to drop a freaking bomb like that. Kyle Pitts is 4 spots too low. Chris, tell the people what you got going on and where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at FF Chris B. Like these two Utes said, every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time on Fourth and Frames. I'm working on my Rashid Shaheed inside I forget. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank. A look inside with Club Fantasy with the New Orleans Saints. I'm dropping that soon. So I've been working hard on that. And then we're firing up the 1 Foot Down show back again in mid-July, the college fantasy football show. We'll be breaking down rankings across the board, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends as we get ready to gear up for the college fantasy football season. And like you said, every Monday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, Mocking with the Stars with you, Gator.
Absolutely. And I truly cannot wait till next Monday to talk to Jeb about how he went about the Philadelphia live draft. First time ever in Scott Fishbowl, and takes the trophy to the house. First time in the bowl and takes the bowl home. Yes,
That's
cannot wait for that. All right, as I always say, draft for talent, trade for need. You don't set a lineup for another 2.5 months. And until next time.